Shut Your Mouth Lounge. Episode number, Addy?
295.
295. Excellent. We were doing this one much later in the day as Addy and I were quite busy with other things. However, let us quickly hit our channel uploads as there is a rather cool topic that we will be hitting today. Pink.
On my side, it's going to be the usual NXT Universe coming out, and Dead by Daylight with Mike, and maybe featuring Alex, I don't remember. And nothing else to the contrary.
All right. Atty.
Well, on mine, it's gonna be the usual. Fucking nothing.
Ah.
I did.
For my part. Oh.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just note that I did actually continue writing the Street Fighter 6 review. It's getting close to being finished. I feel like there's only gonna be another 2 or 3 paragraphs that need to be in it for it to actually feel complete. And I will not rewrite it. Fuck it. Rewriting reviews has made them take so long, and it's not like Street Fighter 6 has a story that I am willing to record every bit of to do play-by-play of, so I don't care, it's gonna be a 5-minute video, but it'll be out maybe in this century. So yeah, W.
Alright, and on my end, expect a lot. Conan Exiles will go on for a long time.
Indeed.
Gladius. Gonna still be more Gladius. I'm thinking of taking a vacation from Gladius after this playthrough wraps. Honestly, I'm almost thinking just stopping on this one right in the middle of it. The Chaos Marines aren't grabbing me, and I just want to take a little bit of a break from the game. Nonetheless, Conan Exiles, plenty of it, and if Gladius is going to be going off, then I'm going to be replacing it with something else. What? I do not know yet. I've got multiple ideas. So, the topic for today is...
We still have the group channel.
Oh,
no,
yes,
we
channel.
don't. Don't be silly.
Quickly.
So, we have Danganronpa, the first part. Don't get your hopes up. Nothing happens in the first month. Dark Souls 2 continues. We get introduced to the concept of set play thanks to the shorts. Then we fight off the baked potato in Fighter's history. And we finish off.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, somewhere between those fighting games are. And finally, to close out the week, Street Fighter 6, we crab walk into a grab.
Yes.
Oh.
That is your week.
Enjoy your week while you have it. All right. So, the topic for today is what is the protagonist-centered trope or trope of protagonists that you despise the most, that can just most turn you on a series? And I'll not turn on in a good way, but turn you on it.
All right, I have an easy one that is fairly obvious. Curvy ladies, man. What the fuck do I care?
Okay, you stole my answer.
The problem is you just get turned off of a series. My problem is that I like rogues. I like thieves. The archetype of thieves, people with daggers. There was a time when roguish people. I mean, it's called the rogue archetype for characters because for a long while in fiction, rogues had to be the pervy ladies man, and I hate it. Why?
It's kind of
yeah.
It's kind of in the nature of the thing. I know this doesn't the way you perceive the world and the nature of who you are. This doesn't make sense. But if you were already kind of living, you know, you're living very close to, you're living on the edge of danger, you're walking the line constantly, then it's kind of inevitable that you're going to, if you're seeking thrills in many other aspects of life, that brain chemistry is just going to keep rewarding itself, keep giving you that dopamine. So even when it comes to your romantic life and sex life, it's going to keep wanting that. Which, by all means, I get it. Like, you're asexual and aromantic, you don't want anything to do with either, so it doesn't make sense to you. But the overwhelming majority of the world is not like that.
I mean that's fair,
There
but
is
yeah.
a distinct lack of asexual protagonists in fiction, which is unfortunate because who are you supposed to associate yourself with? But
There's a thing to be said
beast
here.
being humanity.
Yeah, there's a thing to be said in how like the characters that I find the most like close to how I am, or I either tend to be manufactured beasts or most notably, you'll notice that I'm really into shonen. Shonen is a genre where either the protagonist is
Is
pervy.
either asexual or a pervert.
Yes. So
Because
like
shonen is written for teenage Japanese boys who are generally either going to be perverts or think the whole sex thing is a bit overblown.
yeah. So like weirdly enough, the shonen somehow ends up being one of the most inclusive genres for race representation, because who gives a fuck about that usually? Like even when when a series has those sorts of characters, they're either supporting cast or the show's bad. no, no, but genuinely like the things that immediately come to mind, the characters with the pervy characters in shonen that immediately come to mind, all tend to be supporting cast, because you have like Roshi. Roshi is an important character, yes, but he's never the protagonist. Uh, Sanji. Sanji's technically a protagonist, but is he though?
We're also talking about decades old stories here. We're talking Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Bleach. Those are all old.
Yeah, I mean,
Nowadays,
if you want to talk
nowadays the
about
stuff
new
that comes out of
shows,
Japan, it's like that kind of stuff is like sword art or whatever, right? And that,
no,
to my
it's
understanding, that show is very pervy.
no, it's macadamia. In macadamia, the most of
What?
the actual protagonists don't care, but Minato is there, yes, but everyone hates Minato. Like it's there was a time when they tried turning Minato gay to try to get people to support him somehow, and the gay community went no. So he's bi now.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's like the pervy character is played for laughs, which I mean, yeah, that's how they try to pass it off. But even then, the new in the newest show that I can think of, where the pervy character is given any sort of like role, recurring role, they're hated. Well, that or it's on the other end, where like with Chainsaw Man, the whole thing with Chainsaw Man is apparently that he's fucked up and very pervy or whatever. I don't know. I don't follow Chainsaw Man.
I gotta admit, I don't either. I just generally don't pay attention to a lot of the modern anime stuff that comes out now. Like you list off macadamia characters. I don't know them. I'm aware of All Might.
Yeah, Green All Might.
Yeah, there we go.
No, actually, Minato is purple All Might with grapes for hair. That's his power. He has grapes.
I wish
That's
I had grapes for hair.
Do you though?
No.
but yeah, like from what I understand from reading people who like Chainsaw Man, uh, Chainsaw Man is about people being fucked up, and the protagonist is like Heisenberg, in that you're supposed to get him and go, wow, that's an asshole. I hate him, but I do care about his whatever he's going through. But I still hate him. He's a bad person. And of course, it also has the thing like Heisenberg, where people think he's cool and right, and yeah.
It's a little more complicated than that with Walter, but yeah, you got the gist of it, definitely.
So yeah, that's my understanding of Chainsaw Man, where like he's supposed to be fucked up, which is why he's a pervert and all that, but he's not like, because I have read arguments about other series that are not Chainsaw Man, where it's worse, the main character is worse, and uh yeah, I will not go into further detail than that, but be assured that there are other series, worse series than Chainsaw Man, trying to pass off their main characters being assholes and trying to make them seem justified for it.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even need to go that far. There's a Demon Slayer, is it? I think, where it's just like, oh no, it's cool. He's a good slave owner, which is an actual line in the series apparently.
I hear a lot about lately about Japan there being a new slave fetish thing.
Yeah, the isekai has brought out all of the slave fetish, from what I can tell. Which I mean,
Like,
the
I don't pay attention to this stuff too much. I always hear like echoes of it on the wind. But it sounds like all that weird harem stuff and all that stuff has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
see, like I am aware of some of these concepts. I'm aware of whatever is like popular, at least by name. As in, like, I am aware that there is it's a show called Kimetsu no Yaiba, which might be Demon Slayer. I forget, but like I don't fucking know what Kimetsu no Yaiba is about. I don't even know if it's Demon Slayer or not. Or yeah,
I definitely don't know.
Yeah, I believe Kimetsu no Yaiba is Demon Slayer, and then Jujutsu Kaisen is the one that the other one that people talk about. That I don't know which series that is in English, but yeah, once again, like I have some knowledge just off of names and people giving their opinions on those names, but I look at that and I go, not interested, and then I just go on with my day. Like me actually watching anime, like is fairly rare, because I watch JoJo because I like JoJo. It's good. But that being said, I still haven't seen part 6 because I read part 6.
Yeah.
And then, like, I watched the Digimon Ghost game because that had an interesting premise, and I liked the execution at the start. And actually, well, I liked the execution throughout, more or less. Other people didn't, but whatever. Beastars, people said a lot of good things about it. I watched the two seasons that actually exist. It's fine. But like,
Yeah, you don't need to go through and list off all of the animes you've ever watched. It's fine.
But I'm just trying to go contrast that with fucking, like, there's a certain kind of anime that I even give the time of day, and then there's also like the other season anime where it's just like, I went back in time and I'm in a Super Nintendo RPG, and it's about this guy. It's about this guy owning a harem, but he's also a Dido, and all of the women in his harem are slaves. And also, he was he was a fucking asshole in life, like nearly criminal. In fact, like he wasn't convicted, but it's fine because he wasn't convicted. But but you see, it's fine because he's trying to be better by being good to his slaves.
I see.
And that somehow justifies him being a creep before he died and got sent to Dragon Quest. Now, all of this shit I said isn't an actual series. I am making up an isekai just from the shit that I've heard about isekai. But some of these elements
sounds accurate to what I have heard in passing as well.
Yes, I mean, like, I want to say I combined 2 isekai series to form this, so I didn't have to go far.
But I want to go back to something. You said specifically pervy or ladies' man protagonists. Those are different things.
I mean, pervy is obvious. Ladies' man bothers me specifically because, well, when the entire, like, whatchamacallit, the setup for tension in a scene is just always he's looking at her tits or whatever, then I just roll my eyes. Like, older games and media overall were definitely worse about this, where it was just like, alright, we'll have an episode, and the entire tension in the episode is that the main character has a boner. and he needs to hide it, and that is the episode.
Yeah.
Which obviously I'm not. Well, at least I think obviously I'm not talking literally, but figuratively. You know, the character is trying to hide
Yeah.
their crush or whatever. And you know, like I don't think that romance has no value or whatever, but I've seen so many romance storylines just kind of exist and not actually do anything for the overarching story that I just roll my eyes. Like there are times when it actually feel like it matters, but a lot of times it feels like it's there because we need to pad time.
Pink, you've been very silent about this. What you thinking?
I've just been sitting here trying to think of any pervy or ladies man protagonists, and I can't think of any.
I mean, I can give you one off of the top of my head.
Would I know them?
Probably
I
not.
mean, for comic books, hang on. Like, let's not just limit it to anime, because anime then it's just really going to be like Addie being vaguely aware, me being even less vaguely, like even more vaguely aware.
Oh no, the
Like, let's go
most recently the one that pissed me off was Zidane in Final Fantasy IX, but
But to put it into like one that Pink would be able to speak more on, Pink would be more knowledgeable about. Let's say, okay, severe example of pervert protagonist in comic books, Deadpool.
I guess so.
Though Deadpool, that one dies down a lot later on once he like gets married. Well, not married, but once he gets into a serious relationship and stuff.
Right. I don't know, cause and I'm not super well versed in Deadpool because I've read his '90s series where he's not really a pervert and he's written very differently. And I've read some of his mid 2000 series where he's again written very differently, but still not really a pervert.
Yeah, that is one thing with comic books is that every character is going to have loads of different writers that give them
Right.
wildly differing personalities and tones.
Yes. Because in the '90s, he's one of the classic tragic Marvel type of heroes, but in the 2000s, they gave up on that entirely in favor of the comedy.
Yes. But let's see. Well, Johnny Storm is very much of the ladies' man variety, of course.
Right.
Iceman, once upon a time, too, up until he became a
Until they told him
gentleman's,
he was gay.
and until he became a gentleman's man abruptly. There's got to be more big ladies' man. They're like actually like ladies' men that were missing though in comic books because that's a very Tony. How did we
Stark,
skip
yeah.
over Tony?
I've been waiting for you to get there.
Tony, yeah, Tony's the worst one. Tony's the worst one. Like, Tony, I could throw a variety of slurs at Tony for his habits.
Right. He's one of the worst characters just in general.
Well, for all kinds of interesting and manipulative and abusive behavior for his friends, yes. Like, really,
He's a
Tony's
menace to
accidentally...
society and himself.
Yes, but definitely both. Like, Tony... Stanley... Correct me if I'm wrong. Stanley said at one point, with Tony, the intention was to make an unlikable protagonist and see if he could make it work, right?
Right.
But then people liked him anyways.
Right.
Tony's kind of circled back, hasn't he?
Kind of, in a way, yeah. Because, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, Stanley specifically said he wanted to make a ladies' man that was kind of unlikable. He wanted to go hard in the capitalism, though he didn't call
A
it
war
capitalism back
profiteer.
then. Yeah, exactly. And he was doing all these things to kind of make this hero that should be unlikable by all accounts, but kind of still is likable in the end. And
Yeah.
I know that there was a direct quote somewhere in some book I read where Stanley said all the letters that they got for their Iron Man series specifically came from women. All the women were reading Iron Man comics and asking questions about that series, and all the little boys were reading Fantastic Four.
That that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do think that there is something that tracks for like going from just cool franchise for nerds and dudes into mega franchise, which is popularity with women,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because Cap's the same way. Women love Cap, though
Right.
for very different reasons from why they love Tony.
Right.
Almost like completely opposite reasons. Like
That-
Cap in the movies, like okay, it's been invoked for virtually every Zoe Deschanel character, manic pixie dream girl, right? I
I've
love
seen
Cap in
Zoe
the MCU.
Deschanel
Cap,
and like Elf and nothing else.
yeah, like I love MCU Cap. MCU Cap is a manic pixie dream boy.
Right.
Like he is the ideal boyfriend or ideal
Right.
husband.
Yeah.
But like to go back to the ladies man pervert thing, I'm trying to think on like then comic book protagonists they're just straight perverts, not ladies men perverts. And like honestly, it's hard to think of like Deadpool was one in the early 2000s when he was under the pen of like let's say Christopher Priestley, I think would be one. But at that point, Deadpool is deliberately being written to be pathetic.
Right.
And Deadpool, there's a degree of humor with Deadpool from how you know poor of an individual he is. Comic books in general try not to go with pathetic protagonists.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess other than Deadpool, Boosters come close. Boosters come close. Though with Booster, it's hard to tell how much of it is real and how much of it is an act, right?
Right.
And I get Booster's still not like, your anime, like peeping on the girl while she's in the shower kind of pervert. He's the, hey, baby, fuck off. Oh, man, kind of
Right. Yeah.
pervert,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, Johnny Bravo.
Yeah.
Which-
Booster. Yeah, Booster is kind of a superhero Johnny Bravo, except he's intentionally choosing to be Johnny rather than just being Johnny by nature. But yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess like the failure pervert protagonist, that's kind of like an exclusively more or less either Japanese trope where it's viewed as lovable and sympathetic, or it's like you'll see it used in American film to indicate like a protagonist is pathetic and you should kind of look down on them. Just to make a comparison, one that will no doubt invoke many cringes for good reason, Kevin Spacey in American Beauty.
I've never seen it, but I understand cringing just based off of that.
American Beauty is a film that won quite a few Oscars in its time. It's a pretty bad movie. It's a movie about Kevin Spacey as a middle-aged father going through a midlife crisis who lusts after his teenage daughter's equally aged high school friend.
So it's Kevin Spacey acting as Kevin Spacey.
No, it's Kevin Spacey acting as Kevin Spacey if Kevin Spacey were straight.
I guess
Yeah, I was
so.
about to say.
Like they were actually right on the money with Kevin Spacey lusting after high school kids. The trouble is they thought he'd be into girls, not boys. Nonetheless, like that's a Western example I can think of pathetic protagonist who is a pervert. But like comparatively over in Japan, it's not really seen as a pathetic trait, is it? It's seen as, like-
that's what I was gonna say.
It's
It
seen
is
seen as a normal thing for young boys to be perverts.
no, that's the thing. It is seen as pathetic. The problem is that
Well, for Chainsaw Man, yes, but Chainsaw Man sounds like it was written with a degree more maturity than most shonen.
I'd say overall it's seen as pathetic. The problem here is that like money that shit sells
Well,
because I guess kids and pathetic old men see themselves in the character, so they go, I'm gonna give money to this, and that's what sells.
I see.
Like, I'm not gonna pretend that so there are some interesting takes in Japanese culture, but to my understanding, they don't seem to think of being a pervert as okay.
That's just not that doesn't I've not observed the same, but I've not observed as much as you have.
I mean, I guess it depends on like, do you factor in consent? because there are some places which would be considered perverted, but at the same time, like, you're pretty much paying actors to like kiss in front of you, and that's as far as it goes. So like, if you consider that perverted, because it in a sense it is, but at the same time they are technically consenting, because I'm gonna assume they can just say no, fuck off.
Yeah.
So like, once again, it's one of those things where like they do have a different take on being naked, which I disagree with. I mean, of course, but which I think is also part of this this discussion of where this what you call it, like, this misunderstanding is. As far as I can tell, once again, like, otaku culture, which is a thing, and being a pervert, which is very close by, as far as I can tell. Like, those things are fairly good way to tell if you're a loser in Japan. The reason that there's so much stuff with self-insert protagonists and just loser protagonists in Japan seems to be that a lot of the install base for anime media are those people, and they're gonna buy whatever like, whichever shoe fits the easiest.
Young boys that are sexually curious because they're young boys.
Yeah, that once again, old men who got stuck. They're stuck.
Plenty of those.
Then again, once again, the caveat here is that, like, there are parts of this that I don't understand, like idol culture. Apparently, it's not weird for 50-year-old men to be like, I really love this 16-year-old girl's shows. She sings good, which, I mean, she might sing good. I don't know. She should put on more clothes. I know that she's wearing like a full on fucking European dress, but still, put on more clothes.
Ugh.
I'm lost.
You are lost. Pray that you will not be found.
Then again, I say that, but as far as I'm aware, like, K-pop stuff has taken over a while ago, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I think we're you're not that old, but you're already too old to know, I think.
Yeah, like, as far as I can tell, with the K-pop stuff, while things might have been worse in the 80s with the Japanese idol culture, but as far as like the aesthetics of what those girls have to put on seems to be only as bad as like Britney Spears. So
Britney Spears was bad.
I guess that depends on when.
I remember there was a when I was growing up, my sister, when she was just starting to learn politics,
Yeah.
she came to be a real big fan of Jon Stewart. And Jon Stewart released a book. And it was called Planet Earth, a guide for, it was a guide for aliens visiting the Earth. And one of the sections is on when is it? What is it? There is a little section on like acceptable, culturally, like socially accepted means of pedophilic urges or whatever. And it was saying even this is divided on class here on Earth. See, for the upper class, it's Lolita. The book is an accepted means of channeling your pedophilic urges. For middle class, Lolita the movie. For low class, a Britney Spears album. But nonetheless, what was I going to say? You actually kind of took the answer I was going to go for. I wouldn't have gone for ladies' men protagonists. To me, that depends a lot on execution. Some of them can be quite charming, depending on whether they lean more on the creepy or genuinely charming side. But for me, pervert protagonist would have been my answer. But since you took that one, what I wanted to go with is series that feature a big, colorful, diverse cast of very interesting characters and a bland protagonist who gets all the actual story and does all the actual work.
Dragon Ball.
Oh boy.
That's a highly specific yet very common trope, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
And like, not to make it a cultural thing, that is way more common in Japanese media than in American or Western in general, I guess.
And it depends on how you go. Yeah.
Addy, you and me are both big fighting game fans.
Yes. We did just play Melty Blood like 3 days ago. Yes.
Yes, though I don't know if that one's an example of it.
Everyone was playing Melty Blood.
What I read of that story pretty well consisted of the main protagonist dude watches Arcway do all the work, and then they have sex. So I guess it's that kind of series.
I wouldn't know.
But then the main protagonist dude also has dreams where he murders her and cuts her body up.
Ah.
That's not good.
Yeah, it's a trip. You need to get in there, brother. You need to read that shit because it's something.
I played through NecoArc's story in Type Lumina, and I went, okay, I have read everything that I need to know about this story. all of NecoArc's story stuff is non. It isn't non-canon, but it's all just references and 4/4 breaks. By the way.
I see. That follows.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, yeah, I mean, just to keep it from being the Beat on Anime Festival here, let's think, what are some Western stories that are bad examples of? We have a big, colorful cast of really interesting characters and a bland protagonist who is going to get the overwhelming majority of the focus.
I mean, if we expand protagonist to mean to be able to mean multiple characters, then some versions of the Justice League, I'd say.
Ooh, that depends on the writer.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying some versions of it.
That's also going to differ. I think that's also going to be a point where we differ, because I'm willing to bet that you consider Superman a very boring character.
Yes. Well,
there you go.
Yeah, Superman I flat out don't like. Batman can be written very boring. Wonder Woman is barely written, as in like she barely gets to exist. Why? But also like where's my man Martian Manhunter?
He's off.
Usually they're with Superman. Pink, you sound like you have opinions on this.
Well, it's hard to say, because I'd need to have I'd have to have a tighter grasp of what kind of Justice League we're discussing, because like comics span a long ass time and have a long ass list of writers, and it can get pretty messy to discuss that just on a whole at face value, because it's not super tangible or anything, because there's always going to be variables in that. If we were to narrow it down to like specifically the Justice League cartoon or a Justice League movie, I could provide more input. But at the moment, the source material we're dealing with is too sourceful and too much material.
Yes. I guess like you would have to say, like, I guess for Addy, you would probably just say like the general gist of Justice League from the perspective of someone not actually reading the comics, just hearing about them, right?
I mean, I saw the cartoon.
The cartoon. Well, there is the cartoon, but would you really say Superman's boring in that?
I mean,
in fairness, in the first season, Superman spends 95% of every episode getting his ass whipped. So,
yeah, though they kind of had to do that because it needs to be established this isn't just Superman.
They got to put the villains over, brother.
Well, not just to put the villains over, but to put everyone in the team who isn't Superman over, because Superman by nature is Superman. Superman doesn't need put over.
Right.
I mean, like I wouldn't say that the cartoon necessarily handles its protagonists bad, but at the same time, I do remember most of the fights just being Superman is here, Batman. No further like things.
I don't think you actually remember the series then.
I remember parts of it, but it's like I watched it when it was being broadcast. That was the last time I've seen it. So
that was 2002. You were like 2 years old.
Well, they would have broadcast it for another like 3 years over here because
Right.
localization.
Yeah.
But still, it's the longest time.
To be honest, like I've seen Justice League probably 10 years ago. Most of Justice League I would have seen 10 years ago. Maybe like 7 years ago for the most recent ones, because it was on Netflix for a bit and it was just something that you could casually turn on. And what I recall was more or less accurate to what Pink said of broadly, Superman generally tends to show up and then get his ass beat, and then Wonder Woman or Hawkgirl or Green Lantern will do a lot of the fighting.
Right.
Yeah, I do remember Green Lantern showing up a lot.
Hawkgirl's the best, by the way.
How do you feel about her being white and everything except that?
It's weird.
Like, to me, like, logically, Hawkman and Hawkwoman should be Middle Eastern, right?
Right.
But, like, no, white, except for that cartoon where she's Latina, and when they introduce Hawkman, isn't he white?
I think so.
Yes.
That's weird.
And the thing is, when they actually finally introduce Hawkman, they do decide that the Hawk people have the Egyptian origins, but they're still mostly white somehow.
Well, hell, there's still people nowadays that think the Egyptians were white, so go figure.
I guess that's true.
But like, well, I can't entirely blame them for getting it all mixed up because the comics have never been able to figure that shit out.
Right. The Hawk people in comics have been messed up since the dawn of time, and they're still messed up despite the infinite crises that they've had to try to solve that problem. Never worked out.
Yeah, like nowadays, haven't they just settled into a fuck it, they're all canon situation?
Yeah, the same with the Legion of Superheroes, same with Supergirl, same with who else has some wonky Silver Age origins that are messy to deal with?
Oh boy.
Wonder Girl, Donna Troy.
Oh god.
That's a mess right there.
That's the one where on like that one. Okay, the rest of them we said. They're all canon. Donna Troy, like their solution there was, we're not going to talk about it. She's just there. Deal with it, because we won't. Like, okay, well, to get back on point though, because we trailed off into that.
True.
Like, other than like, I'm curious then, Addy, how do you feel about the quote unquote Paragon hero? Like, what do you think of Captain America, for instance?
I haven't seen enough. I was about to say I haven't seen enough whatchamacallit, Captain America media to be able to tell. I say as I have both a Winter Soldier and a Captain America tome on the shelf. So actually, I just need to remember it. But I did like Cap, if memory serves. The stories that they included, because if you recall, I have a couple of these tomes where they tried to compile their like most notable stories, and yeah, the Captain America stuff that I read, I actually liked.
Oh well, I guess there's more to it than that. Of course, I that was kind of a clumsy example for me to go with. Because to be fair, there is like also the power level difference, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, yeah, your point's been stated. But like, do we have like defense for this trope? Because like with the ladies' man, like I offered the defense there of like, well, if it's well done, a ladies' man protagonist can be very charming, depending on how much respect he actually has for the ladies and how good he actually is at charming versus just woman, you me bed.
Yeah.
Right.
Or haha boobies. You know, that kind of character.
Yeah, but both of those latter ones describe fucking Titus. He's such a shit. I hate him.
All right then.
Like they're trying to move him past that, but it's like the end of the game, and they're just now trying to get to like step 2. It's a bit late.
You're about to say they're trying to move him past that, and I will never forgive him.
No, I could forgive him. He has had character growth. But once again, it feels a bit too late when I'm done with it by 80 to 90% of the game.
Yeah.
And he's just not getting to the point of, hey, maybe, isn't just Booba.
My God. Get our top scientists on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the bland protagonist stuff, let's see. I mean, is there a defense I can muster? I don't know, because I dislike Dragon Ball for this exact reason.
Yeah.
I hate to dunk on my boy Cyclops, but the X-Men does have a bit of a problem where he's always the leader when they've got such a wide, colorful cast. Looking at you, X-Men 97.
Yeah, Psych. See, the trouble is, Psych is an interesting. Like, okay, I'm gonna be real here. Out of the Claremont X-Men stuff I read, my favorite Psych story was the story where he had gone off on vacation and wound up running into Magneto because Psych had nothing to do with the X-Men, and his character wasn't just, I feel bad about Thunderbird. I feel bad about Jean.
Yeah, I imagine he meets Magneto at the like bodega, and he just starts yelling Gene.
I was kind of almost imagining like they both just kind of stand still and like lock gazes for a second, both going, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
That kind of story doesn't happen quite enough. Pink, I've heard of this before. I wanted to know if you knew anything about it. I've heard there was a Spider-Man story before where Peter and Mysterio ran into each other at a movie theater, but they didn't know that the other was Spider-Man or the other one was Mysterio. So they just watched a movie together and like, hey, this is a good movie. Yeah, you're a cool dude. Yeah. I should call you up sometime. I don't know. I'm pretty busy.
I have not heard of that. That sounds awesome.
But like, yeah, Psych is a pretty bad example. And like, I don't hate Psych. However, I do think that as leaders of the X-Men go, so much of Psych boils down to him not really leading. Like all of Psych's actual story moments as a leader boil down to Wolverine, follow my orders. Fuck off, bub. Or Storm, follow my orders. No, Psych, I think I would be the wiser leader. And the way Claremont wrote it, Storm was a better leader.
Yeah.
Like, Psych, sometimes when you look back at Psych, there's almost where you can see it's kind of natural for him to turn into new Magneto.
Right.
Like, Psych was always a guy with some serious authority and personality issues. Like, that's the one, I think I've said this before. I despise everything with the X-Men since House of M, except for one or two things. One or two things I do appreciate is Wolverine and Cyclops having the complete 180 to each other, where now Wolverine is the responsible one, and he's like trying to bring Psych back from the brink, right?
Right.
But no,
It's a cool dynamic to establish over 50 years, but at the same time, it's happening now at a time where the X-Men comics are garbage, so it's unfortunate.
Yeah, like if it wasn't tied to also like the mutant, like the X-Men now agree with Magneto that humanity and mutants can never survive and never last together, so they make Krakoa a separate nation and give up on all their ideals. And Professor X is now a huge racist.
I knew we couldn't trust that guy. He was bald. You know who else is bald? Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
It all ties together.
You remember how Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde despised each other, and that was actually one of the few entertaining things of the Joss Whedon era, was how much they despised each other? Oh, now they're cool with each other.
Yeah. Water under the bridge.
Like, that makes me so mad, because one of the only X-Men scenes I enjoy of the last 20 years is Kitty Pryde beating the shit of Emma Frost from inside a wall. Oh boy, God. Let's not bring up X-Men in the last 20 years again.
For other examples of this trope, is it too cheap to say any like team led by Hawkeye that was supposed to be the Avengers?
How dare you?
I like Hawkeye. I like Hawkeye, but he doesn't usually get character development from what I've seen.
Hawkeye is the greatest Avenger to ever be on the roster. I will
Movie
die on that
Hawkeye
hill.
was lame up until the TV show. However, comic book Hawkeye is one of my favorite comic characters.
Absolutely.
Also, awesome to play Marvel heroes, but I could. That's my pull. You know, good old Marvel heroes.
May it rest
Anyways,
in
R.I.P. Rest in pepperoni.
peace.
Nonetheless, okay, let me hit the elephant in the room one for me and Addie, though, that we have been walking around. Street Fighter V. So, do you remember the ending of Street Fighter V story mode, Addie?
Bison dies because Ryu Hadokens him. Nash is dead. Rashid is also there despite being... Rashid is also there. He's done nothing despite being the protagonist.
Nash, who was murdered by Bison having Nash's own comrades betray him. Nash comes back from the dead with a new attitude. He's pissed. He wants revenge. He is obsessed with revenge. He is going to get that Bison motherfucker. And finally, at the final battle, Nash climbs onto Bison's back, piggyback style, activates a suicide bomb attack, using all of his energy to kill Bison. Bison no-sells it, then Ryu beats and kills Bison.
Yeah, and then Nash learned that move from his hero, Tatsu.
It's rumored that a journalist did ask Ono about that storyline and said, I don't know, I'm a pretty big Nash fan. And the moment the words Nash fan left that journalist's lips, Ono produced a knife from his coat and just stuck it straight through the guy's neck.
It's wild.
Nonetheless, to me, that's like insane. Like Ryu is the worst example to me of just that Ryu has a nemesis. Akuma. But Ryu is the one who gets to beat Bison. Everyone else on the cast has a valid reason to despise Bison except Ryu. Ryu is the one who kills Bison.
But you see, the reason for this is that Ryu has like 5 nemesis. The only one that isn't his nemesis, that has 2, is G and Gil. Because he technically didn't fight them, I don't think. So
that is true.
But like Sagat is Ryu's nemesis. Akuma is Ryu's nemesis, but only in some continuities. Bison is Ryu's nemesis by virtue of Ryu beat Bison in Street Fighter 2. Set. Okay, I guess Set is not Ryu's nemesis either.
What? Hang on. Okay, Ryu's nemesis are Sagat and Akuma. Sagat, he wounded seriously, but that was pretty well the end of the feud, because Sagat then saw Dan, and Dan made him realize that the revenge was futile. And Ryu and Akuma more or less just kind of blew over, because Akuma more or less eventually just recognized, okay, he's not going to do it. And so Akuma was like, again, I guess. Bring it on, you old fuck. So Ryu only kills other people's nemesis, but not his own.
Yeah, no, he tries to convert his nemesis.
Oh no, he's Naruto.
Yeah, Ryu has mastered the talk no jutsu. The talk no mu. The talk of nothingness. It kind of fits.
Kind of, yes. If there is any statement you can make to horrify me, it is, oh no, he's Naruto.
Yeah. Okay, but you wanna hear a more
horrifying
one. You wanna hear a more horrifying one though. Ken is Sasuke.
I want to what? Oh no.
He is currently succumbing to the fucking the curse mark. He's going with Orochimaru. Oh no.
He knocked a girl up?
Yes. The kid exists. He's in the game.
What?
Mel.
What are you talking about?
Mel Masters is in the game.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, no, hang on there, Sasuke. Okay, I thought you said Ryu is.
No, Ken is Sasuke.
For a second. No, yeah, that doesn't actually really fit, but nonetheless, that's horrible.
I mean, it's not a 1-to-1 fit, but it's a 99 or a 98 95% fit.
Is it though?
I mean, with the overarching character arc of we used to be teammates, but now I will become evil. Yes, like
He's not really evil. He's just more pissed.
I mean, yeah, but that's how Sasuke started too. So like, depending on where they take the storyline, he might go down that route, and I hope they don't. Like they did that
I
shit.
don't think they're. I'm also willing to bet Naruto was never really willing to declare Sasuke evil, no matter how many innocents he murdered, because no matter what, he had friendship.
Well, that depends on when. There was a time when he was supposed to be evil, but he was still not evil. As in, you still got to see like his point of view, so he wasn't evil in that sense, but he also still did murder those people and tried to murder Sakura and all that. And everyone still hates him in the village, aside from Naruto. So
I mean, if we were just to do this podcast on like worst, well, like we could spend this entire podcast talking about how Naruto is the worst for protagonist. Well, the worst for it's the worst. It's actually the worst. Humanity deserved to be nuked off the face of the earth when Naruto was made. Bring on the nuclear inferno. Nonetheless, Pink.
Well, you guys covered some good tropes that we all
Some
would
good
like.
bad protagonist tropes.
Yeah, that we all would like to see die in the foreseeable future. One that isn't so bad but has the potential to be bad that I really don't like is the quote unquote chosen one or the destiny,
Oh.
where the character only tends to act out of because the plot demands or because fate has demanded or things like that. So you don't really get a sense of this character is doing something specifically because he wants or needs or must do something. It is simply because, well, some book here said he's going to do this thing, so he's going to go do this thing. Have fun. See you next Tuesday.
yeah,
There's also philosophical issues with the Chosen One trope.
Right.
The Chosen One trope not only inherently believes that there is some kind of cosmic order and divine being, but that they have favorites.
Right. It's messed up, yo.
Which, yeah, like, I don't know, like, as you were saying right there, it's also just lazy. Skip motivation, whatever, here you go. Go save the world, asshole.
Right.
yeah.
But, like,
What?
I mean, not only is it just not interesting, but like I don't like anything that's from the outset saying, unless God chose you, you will not save the day. It does not matter how hard you work. It does not matter what kind of moral fiber you have. It does not matter your skill or your talent. This was all decided from the beginning. You are not the one.
Right.
To make a specifically like a religious joke, it's a Calvinist perspective on fiction.
Right.
You were already set for hell from the moment you burst forth from the womb.
That's what's up.
Hey, brother, that's a religion.
Yeah. Can't argue that.
I guess my
Oh.
only defense of the chosen one trope is when they try to do a spin on it, when the whatchamacallit, the like ancient text or whatever is not an actual like it's not actual prediction of the future, but it's just like vague bullshit that could be anything, and it just happens to line up.
I do appreciate.
Now that you mention it, the Lego movie handled it very well.
I do appreciate when it's an open prophecy, right? Of like, well, hypothetically, anyone could meet these steps. I also appreciate vague prophecies that get misinterpreted.
Yeah, that's the second one is what I'm talking about. When it's just like, all right, so we have this thing that doesn't even exist in this universe that will kill the bad guy, and then it just so happens that the protagonist looks something similar to that thing, or whatever. Like
the classic, right? The classic is no son born of man can kill you. The forest is going to come up and get you, though. Right. And Beth is just like, well, that's complete fucking nonsense, so I'm safe.
Yeah. Like I think it can work
Also,
with
I'm
that.
a C-section baby, so that made me think I can kill Macbeth.
Now hold up.
That again, that's kind of an open prophecy, though. Even once you find out what it means, that's still an open prophecy. It means Macbeth can be killed by anyone with a C-section, born from a C-section,
Yeah.
which is not a
You
small
better watch
amount.
out.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on 1 second.
But yeah, like the more traditional prophecy throws them one thing where it's just like, all right, so you have been destined because you have the God seed. Yeah, no, that sucks.
I'm also really not a fan of divine heritage. And that one is specifically like divine bloodlines. And that one I'll just explicitly say is like for political reasons because that is a narrative that has historically been tied to racism.
I mean, the divine bloodlines thing is why I hate Hercules as a character.
Like I can accept if it's the son of a god.
I can't.
But when it's like you are the distant descendant of a people that were greater than all other wimpy peoples throughout the world because you are the son of a god. Like to me, the biggest comparison, honestly, this is one like Guilty Gear. It makes me uncomfortable in Guilty Gear. I don't talk about it a whole lot because it doesn't actually come up in Guilty Gear.
The Japanese having magic for no reason.
The Japanese have magic because hey, they live around Mount. Oh, help me! What's the name of the big mountain in Japan?
Fuji.
They live around Mount Fuji, and the gods are on Mount Fuji, so they're divinely blessed, which makes them inherently better than other humans. And this definitely was not a racist propaganda piece used by Imperial Japan to justify the conquest and tyranny over other peoples.
Yeah.
I return.
All right.
We've moved on to talking about racism.
Oh, the natural next step in Destiny, yes.
Yes, actually, because we got there from Destiny to divine bloodlines and divine heritages and divine ethnicities. Right?
Oh no.
Right? Because what we brought up was in Guilty Gear, Japanese people have the ability to use key magic. Nobody else does because they're close to Mount Fuji, right? Which is, of course, a classic bit of racism used by Imperial Japan to justify the conquest and tyranny over other peoples outside of Japan.
Right.
And like reading through Conan, like a lot of the Conan stories, these are well-written stories. That does not change that it's also super racist, not just explicitly when Conan says racial slurs to black people, but also implicitly when it's like, no other can match Conan, for Conan is from the Sumerian people. So, like, there's that there. Yeah, Chosen One is pretty bad. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I to the divine bloodline shit. I actually think that there is one exception that I don't mind, which is I can even pull an example in Assassin's Creed. The divine would be obviously the aliens who had the sixth sense and shit, which is what eagle vision is. Yeah. Anyone on Earth can have eagle vision, so everyone is of divine heritage. The only difference that people being chosen or not, technically makes is that they have a larger concentration, which is random. Anyone could have a larger concentration and just awaken eagle vision.
Yeah, there's that. Like when it's the aliens that did it, that is a big difference there.
Oh, another one. I wouldn't say so. I think that the difference maker for me there is that anyone can awaken this power. It's just some either have good RNG or didn't just choose to put the work into it to awaken it instead of it just being okay. So this one guy gets it and that's it.
Yeah. I'll throw in another one though that occurred to me as well. It's kind of different. Is Star Wars. The Chosen One is pitched, and for one thing, the Anakin prophecy does not work out like any of them expected. But on top of that, the Chosen One is not chosen by any god or divine thing that is decided to predestine everyone's nature. Anakin is the Chosen One by the Force. The Force is, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how much they've clarified what the Force is in Star Wars lore. I'm not the super big Star Wars lore nerd.
The Force is God.
The Force, no, the Force, correct me if I'm wrong, is the collective life force of all that draws breath in the whole universe, in the whole galaxy, right?
I believe Obi-Wan said something like that in the original trilogy.
I believe that is what he said. At the same time, in newer material, they don't act like that.
George Lucas isn't canon. Tell your mother.
I'm
Yeah.
not even talking about George Lucas. I'm talking about Jens Sid,
Who?
Disney.
Well, they don't count.
Well, Disney can retcon it to be God that made that decision, by all means, and then I'll call Disney racist.
Because like
Didn't
even with
expect that, did you, fuckers?
because with the whatchamacallit,
No.
with the Fallen Order stuff, it's just the Force crystals are God, the Force is God, lightsabers are God. Just fuck it.
Well, they're a representation of the wider life force of the universe.
I don't know. The way they portrayed it was very bad. Like it was just what we're complaining about of like, oh, you don't just choose the crystal that you think will shine good. No. The crystal chooses you because it knows everything, it knows all, it can do all. It's a fucking crystal that makes a laser sword.
I mean, that's just the Force. Everything has a life spirit to it. I mean, Obi-Wan, when Alderaan blows up, Obi-Wan feels it and was like, oh, that's not good.
A sudden chunk of the Force is gone. Something bad has gone down.
Yeah. Hey, you know the life force of the galaxy? There's a bit missing.
I mean, I guess to me the what matters here is the like, you know, does the Force have a conscious or is it unconscious? Because if it's unconscious, then I'm fine with it. But if it's conscious, then it might as well be God. Like,
I don't think that's the kind of thing that would specify, because how can you scientifically measure that even in universe? But to me, the Force always sounded like it didn't really make choices. It was more a force of nature and less a divine intelligence.
see
Right.
in the newer stuff that I've seen, it is more portrayed as a divine intelligence.
Well, you should stop reading the newer stuff then.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, with all due respect to it, there's some good stuff that's come out of the newer stuff. The Jedi games do look like quite cool.
They're not.
The lore stuff, the lore stuff. Well, Addy, to be entirely fair, you despise Star Wars because you're sick of hearing us talk about it. But
I dislike I dislike Star Wars, and I dislike Dark Souls, but I did dislike that game because it's unfocused.
But either which way, the what was I going to say? Now I've gone off track. Either which way, the Star Wars lore has never been super precise to my understanding, especially like when you get into so much of like George Lucas fiddling around with stuff, when you get into the comics, when you get into the novels, yada yada yada.
I mean, I'm gonna be
Disney
fair.
is just kind of throwing whatever they are interested in at the wall without really caring about the implications. Whereas when the expanded universe stuff was going on, you know, George Lucas, we can, you know, shit on him all we want, and he deserves it. But at the end of the day, George Lucas did love Star Wars and have a very clear idea of what he wanted from Star Wars. But the stuff on the fringes he didn't get. And he didn't care about the details of making it consistent. He had things he wanted, and he did them without thinking whether or not they fit, right?
Right.
Like, George Lucas wanted to make a Star Wars movie about warfare between cells in the bloodstream.
What a weirdo.
Oh, you know what, though? There is a real bad example of divine bloodline in Star Wars. Because I was only thinking of the original trilogy. How have none of us yet brought up midichlorians?
Yeah.
They don't count.
That's
They're
the
not
big
canon.
one. Yep.
No.
And they had the opportunity to undo that with Rey, and they didn't.
No,
No.
they doubled down because now both of the divine bloodlines are Rey. Fuck you.
Yeah. Like, Last Jedi sets up, okay, she doesn't have, like, sets up the possibility of, like, okay, there's no bloodline bullshit here. Rey is a random peasant who got the Force, and not only that, she got Super Force. But then, then, you know, Rise of Skywalker, what was it called? Was it called Rise of Skywalker?
I think so, yeah.
Why would you name the last movie of the trilogy Rise of Anything? It's the ending.
We'll make
Things rise at the beginning.
another 13 movies. Shut up. Watch
Nonetheless,
the Mandalorian.
nonetheless, like, oh god. And nonetheless, the opportunity was there, and Rise of the Skywalker just goes, nah, actually, Palpatine got his dick wet.
Disturbing.
That's one of those things of like, okay, they said at some point that Palpatine was like a legal street racer in his youth. Maybe he got laid back then, but we're all thinking of crusty old Palpatine getting laid, aren't we?
I mean, like, I mean,
I know I am.
I mean, just think about like the crusty old Palpatine has been cloned. There was a time in Star Wars where Palpatine just went around jerking off into fucking vets to grow other Palpatines.
I don't think that's how the cloning process works, but okay.
Oh god. Well, we can go back to the DC animated universe for a little bit. Bruce Wayne left his DNA all over town. No, not like that.
I hate that episode.
I despise the retcon that Terry McGinnis is Bruce's kid. Like,
Ruins
I
the
hate
series
that.
retroactively, and ruins everything else for that matter.
I'm gonna be honest. I've grown to like Damien over the years, just because he's a little shitter. He's okay. This would make Mike so mad if he was here to hear this. Damien's a little goblin, and I appreciate that. Right?
Yeah,
Damien always
for being conceived the way he was, he turned out fine.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things. There are some elements to comics we don't talk about. Nobody talks about Peter beating up Mary Jane during the Clone Saga, right? Because we don't want to.
Right.
Nobody talks about Talia trying to force herself onto Jason Todd, trying to rape Jason Todd, and nobody talks about Talia succeeding in raping Bruce. Because nobody wants to talk about that.
Well, but if we do talk about Hank Pym stepping Wasp, we do want to talk about that one.
And do you know why that is? Because if you get rid of Peter hitting Mary Jane, Peter's one of the most beloved, lovable characters in comic books. If you get rid of Hank hitting Janet Pym, or Janet, what's Janet's last name?
Van
Dyne. If you get rid of Hank hitting Janet, Hank is still a manipulative, psychotic piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean,
like, that's the difference maker.
I mean, I
For
saw
every bit that people say, like, oh, it's a tragedy that Hank was ruined as a character. Don't get me wrong. Hank was an interesting character. He still kind of is. But Hank was always built to be the worst superhero. Like, Hank almost reads as, okay, we couldn't get them to hate Tony. Let's go worse.
I mean, I knew what to expect of Hank when the way I was introduced to him was this was, I believe, a Stan Lee comic. So I read one of the old ones, and the way both Ant-Man and the Wasp are introduced is both of them bickering with Hank going, for God's sake, woman, why can't you get dressed in less than an hour or something like that? And then he might even threaten to beat her up. I forget.
And then they show up to the Avengers meeting, and she sees Thor and is immediately like, "Oh, give me a piece of that!"
Yeah.
And it's just instant character establishment. Congratulations, these are the two worst people in the Avengers. You will grow to love you'll grow to love both of them. You'll grow to love one of them because they turn around and have very sympathetic traits. You'll grow to love the other because he's a good example of an early, awful, terrible superhero, long before Alan Moore was like, hey, Watchmen. But then when you read a lot of the old Stan Lee superheroes, a lot of them are really terrible people.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And for some of them, it stuck for longer than people think. Hulk was an awful person for 30
still
years.
is.
He kind of still is, yes. And Banner and Hulk have entirely different flaws, but they're both very flawed individuals. Oh, boy. Oh, God. Okay, yeah, not to keep just going on this, but the hardest character turnaround in Marvel. Pink, you and me have talked about this before. The hardest turnaround, Ben Grimm.
Oh yeah. Oh
Straight
yeah.
from the one of the worst characters to the best. Oh boy. All right, so we each got our picks. We got pervy main characters. We got interesting side casts with a bland main character. And we got Destiny and Divine Bloodlines. All right.
I just remembered there's one way to tell that Destiny is a hex writing setup.
What's that?
Dario used it.
You know, you're right on the money.
That's all you
The
need to know about the
Mexican money.
trope.
Whew, yeah, that. Bleh. Which, to be fair, hang on, we got to clarify though for people who aren't wrestling fans. The disgust with Del Rio is not with that trope. The disgust with Del Rio is that he was an awful human being and an awful wrestler. Del Rio's use of the divine bloodline thing was deliberately a bad guy thing. Him saying, I am better than you. And the point was, he was not better than you because he's a bad guy. Like, that is a very different example of that, where it's like, it's not. It would be interesting to see divine bloodline be invoked more by the bad guys and Destiny invoked more by the bad guys. But no, that doesn't happen too often because historically, medieval and Renaissance storytelling still influences modern storytelling a lot in some ways. And they were big on divine bloodlines and Destiny because that said that God chose our people over those smelly foreigners.
Manifest destiny, baby.
The mandate of heaven. It is cool for our king to be a raging tyrant who abuses and kills and have no restrictions or rules on him whatsoever because God chose him. He's been known to do that. Just point the finger at you. You're the one.
I mean, no, like put everyone who says that God chose them in the chair, and if God didn't choose them, then they'll just die. It's fine. They'll get
They'll explode. Anyways, I believe we've hit this topic pretty well, haven't we?
Yes.
We smashed it with the hammer.
We need more hammers for more smashing. Wouldn't you agree?
I'm a big fan
No?
of hammers.
Well, fuck you then.
Bye.
Oh!